Hello and welcome to DY's first impressions and banner review for March Flash Gala 2024 Anniversary Edition. Whew. This banner had many things that at least I did not foresee at all. I was not expecting these three characters, let alone Horus and Magus, as summer units. It's very exciting, so let's get right into it. So first up, let's talk about Fenie, and in particular her weapon, Phoenix's Torch. This is the first time we've ever gotten a grand weapon like this, which has a very heavy main weapon focus. So immediately this means that you will only ever need one fully uncapped weapon. With its big crit and healing cap on its first skill, it synergizes nicely with other critical strike chance weapons in fire like overriders, and the healing cap obviously makes it very good for those end game raids, which is where, spoiler alert, where Fenie looks to be quite useful as well. The second skill rather here is focused on doing more skill damage, and it seems to be doing about the same or a little bit more than what you would expect from Mana Diver with the Ouroboros Minnow, so it's around that amount of damage or a little bit more. And then the last weapon skill here restores all allies' HP and also boosts their charge attack. Now this is obviously a really strong main hand. It synergizes particularly well with classes like Mana Diver or Monk, and on top of that, this Singed can be quite useful for characters like Grand Percival. And even in HL raids, I think it can be used because of this healing effect too. So we'll have to see as time goes on how players start using this weapon. But definitely, you will only ever need one fully uncapped copy of this weapon. Alright, let's take a look at the character herself, Fenie. Fenie's kit revolves around two different states. Her initial state, and then after she has died once and auto-revived from her passive, all of her skills and her charge attacks upgrade, and her passive as well. So initially her skills, they're still quite good, but they become even better. So you can see on the first skill, it will affect all allies. This skill will dispel. This skill will also give Fenie Undying and one turn Assassin. Now she does start off quite fragile because of this low defense. In fact, it's a 70% hit to defense. So her kit is really revolved around killing her off once to natural stuff. You can use her S3 to speed that up by substituting a powerful attack from the enemy. And then later on, she will auto-revive when she dies and return with all these really powerful effects. She also has a very supportive passive which heals the team if your team takes big damage. And this skill also has a really useful effect, which is the 2-turn cut to debuff durations. This can be quite useful in many different types of raids, especially when there are debuffs that cannot be removed, because although they can't be removed by effects like Clarity, they can have their durations lowered to make them much more manageable. So taking all of that into account, it definitely seems like Fenie has a focus on these sorts of HL raids, things like Hexachromatic Hierarch, and more importantly at the moment, Lucilius Zero. So next up, let's take a look at Summer Horus. Immediately upon reading her skills, Horus clearly has a focus on charge attack oriented setups. Many of her skills and her passives just revolve around charge attacking often. So the first thing to point out, a lot of her skills use this Eye of Wadjet buff. And this buff is granted to her at the start of the battle, and it lasts for 3 turns. However, the duration can be refreshed when you Chain Burst Ascension, which is a 4 chain or higher, or by activating a Faded Chain. While this buff is active, it will provide your team constant HP healing, as well as a 10% boost to charge bars at the end of turn, further supporting that charge attack playstyle. Now, while this buff is also in effect, her charge attack will activate twice, her skill 1 will activate twice, and you can also gain access to using her third skill. Now, her first skill here is a really strong debuffing tool and able to inflict 4 debuffs at once on one cast, but since it's activated twice, you can easily get up to 8 debuffs on it. Now do note that some of these debuffs will be resisted by the enemy, especially something like Sleep here, so please do keep that in mind. Now, the Eye of Wadjet also really enables a strong synergy within her skills. Her charge attack activates her first skill. Now, on both of these, you can see that the Eye of Wadjet enables her charge attack to activate twice, and it also enables her first skill to activate twice. So the interaction here is as follows. When you charge attack with the Eye of Wadjet, what will happen is that she will charge attack, and then this skill will activate twice, auto-activate twice. And then she will charge attack again, and then the skill will activate twice again, basically proccing 4 times during that one charge attack. So this is obviously very powerful, and especially in V2 raids where debuff omens are very prevalent. So in raids like Augustia where there are debuff omens, this can be really, really strong. Now, the Eye of Wadjet also enables her to use this third skill here, which provides an instant CA standby to all light allies, and on top of that, it will grant 100% boost to Faded Chain, which is obviously a very, very strong effect when so many V2 raids have omens that can only be cancelled by Faded Chain. So overall, Horus is looking to be a really, really strong charge attack support for higher difficulty raids. Immediately, she is already being used in Augustia full auto setups, where you are able to loop your charge attacks every turn, and Horus is able to do an insane amount of damage and also provide a lot of utility and omen cancelling benefits to the team. Alright, and finally, let's take a look at Summer Magus. Summer Magus is a skill damage based character. Many of her skills are red bordered, and they also come off cooldown from her charge attack. This skill does a lot of damage to the foe, it dispels, and it also boosts her charge bar, enabling her to charge attack again, which puts these skills off cooldown. Now, against foes that have her unique debuff, which is provided by her third skill, it will also deal additional hits. The second skill here also has a benefit when that debuff is placed on the enemy, and it will also raise the damage of this second skill, which will also land a ton of debuffs, which is very useful for those debuff omens in V2 raids. I've already mentioned her third skill here, but it does lower the attack, defense, and accuracy of all foes. It is specifically 20% attack down, 20% defense down, and the accuracy, as far as I know, is currently unknown. However, an important thing to note about this debuff and this skill is that while this debuff is on the enemy, Magus will take damage over time every single turn. The damage is 10% of Magus's max HP, which caps out at 5,000. Now, 5,000 HP is a lot of damage, especially since it's happening every turn. And one important thing to note is that you cannot convert that to healing through skills like Death's Grace, which is provided by Lich's second skill. Now, another important thing to note here, further boosting her skill damage, is when enemies have 10 or more debuffs, it will activate her first skill, which is obviously very, very strong. She provides already so much debuffs, so you only need a couple more to really be able to get this effect. And finally, while this unique debuff is on the enemy, Magus will passively provide your Dark Allies attack, skill success rate, and supplemental skill damage, 50,000 supplemental skill damage, which is quite beneficial. Overall, Magus is looking to be quite a good full auto character. She'll provide a lot of skill damage, which is obviously good for newer and intermediate accounts as well. I also can see her perhaps being used in some HL raids, where she'll provide a lot of hits and a lot of debuffs for those V2 omens. I'm not sure if this will be better than what Dark currently has, especially in a raid like Lucilius Zero, but unfortunately Dark doesn't really have the best stuff there at the moment, so maybe Magus will find a spot there as well. Okay, so with the characters out of the way, should you spark this banner? Maybe. It's actually a very good banner, especially with roulette discount. There's just a couple important things to note here. I've already talked about it a bit in my roulette FAQ video, so if you haven't seen that, check that out, link in the top right. But the main thing here is that we have 2 flash banners back to back. We have this one, which is Flash Gala Part 1, and then we have the next banner, which is Flash Gala Part 2. During Flash Gala Part 2, we have a guaranteed 100 pulls from the roulette, which means that if you save your rolls on March 18th for Flash Gala Part 2, you might have a bigger guaranteed discount during Part 2. So, if you are looking for Fenie, it is probably better to wait for that guaranteed discount rather than sparking on this banner. The biggest benefit for sparking on this banner is grabbing the summer characters. If you really want Summer Horus or Summer Magus, the only time they will be sparkable during this anniversary period is this banner. So if you want a guaranteed chance at pulling Horus or Magus, this is the only time you can do it. And it will be a decent discount since you can use up to March 18th roulette pulls here. The other thing to consider here is also how many rolls you get from roulette. We've already had a couple days of roulette rolls on this banner, but you also have March 17th and March 18th rolls as well. Depending on how many rolls you get during those days, Flash Gala Part 1 might have a very comparable discount to Flash Gala Part 2. Alright, and I think that about does it. I've been putting out a lot of videos recently, things to do with the anniversary period, so things like the Annie ticket, the weapon tickets, and the roulette video that I mentioned earlier, so please check those out if you need. I'm streaming also every day on Twitch, so if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below or come on by to the stream. Okay, so that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck if you're pulling, stay strong if you're saving, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye. Bye-bye.